Now we're moving on. Just a quick recap of what was done before. We have two different pixel strings, APA 102, LPD 8806. Their color orders have been corrected so that they both operate as red, green, blue devices. And we've color matched the two of them for a neutral white, so they're looking good. Now we're getting into programming. So RC4 Custom Pixel Profiles are really handled with just three parameters really, and we're going to start with what grouping is. So grouping is how we take a space and expand it. So let's start with what a regular pixel controller does. Here are those configurations that we just talked about, and if I say my sequence length is 170 pixels, that's all the pixels in a single universe, and my group size is one pixel on my DMX controller equals one physical pixel on the real strings. And I have both of them configured that way. Let's make sure that those settings are in the device, so I'll do a send. And then, handy dandy in RC4 Magic PC, I can go over to Visual TX, which gives me a very simple console, and we can test this. So here is red, green, blue in our first pixel. And likewise on the other string, on the LPD 8806, here is red, green, and blue on the first pixel down there. And I can proceed on to the next pixel, same thing up here. Now, because I have only 8 faders for each of these rows, I can do red and green, and then I've run out. I don't have blue. And that's okay. When you're doing your own console, a real lighting controller, obviously you have many more channels. So this is just for demonstration. Now let's have a look at what grouping does. So let's group. This is the simplest example. We're going to make one pixel in your controller equal 2 physical pixels in the string, so that we've done it for both at the same time. We'll send that. That's the only value that I have changed. And now we can go twice as wide on the screen, on our string, I mean. So we go back over to Virtual TX, and now when I bring up that first pixel, we get 2 of them. And likewise down here. And if I bring up the second one, we have 2 of them. So there's, mix some colors, 2 pixels at a time. You might normally not want to control pixel strings with so few channels, but suppose that's all we had and we wanted to do something very simple. What if we went up to 7 on here? Let's make it 9. We'll go up to 9 physical pixels on the APA and 4 physical pixels on the 8806. Let's send that over there. And now, with even this super limited console, we can start to light up some length. So here we'll make a nice color on the first section. Our next pixel is the next range of those. And if I don't mind that I don't have any blue, I can even do something on the next section. So look at that. We've done a lot more. And I've chosen some numbers. Notice the density of the pixels is smaller on the LPD tape, so I've spaced them to be very similar in physical space. And another interesting advantage is you may have multiple pixels performing in the same area, and you want them to have a kind of equivalent spread in physical space, even if the resolution of the pixels, the spacing between them is different. And so there's just many, many different uses for group size. So that's what that is. And that's the simplest explanation of it. Just one more thing I'll show you, what we call unison mode. Quick touch button there that takes us down to a single pixel, red, green, and blue, assigned to all 500 pixels in the entire length of one string. So now the Pix itself is transmitting all the data for 500 pixels, but they're all exactly the same. One red, green, blue pixel in your lighting console is 500 pixels on a string. So now we go up here, and red is the entire thing, all the way out to 500. You know, several universes worth of pixels. So if you had, maybe you built a set piece where you were uncertain about whether or not the designer, the lighting designer, was going to ask for individual pixel control, and then he comes back and says, you know, we would have been fine with regular pixel tape. I'm just going to do some color changing and then dim the thing out. And you can say, well, that's great. I don't have to use 3,000 channels on my DMX console. I'll just group them into unison with RC4 Magic Custom Pixel Profiling and control the whole thing from 3 channels just like I would have with regular tape. So there's the range we can go from. When we turned this on, we were running exactly like any pixel driver you would ever use, made by any manufacturer, 1-to-1. And then we went to groupings that let us use fewer channels and light a longer length of the tape. And then finally we go to the extreme other end, which is just make all the pixels behave the same. We've grouped 500 pixels together in one console pixel. So that's what group size is. One of the most significant and influential, impactful parameters in RC4 pixel profiling.